Just finished up the trunk. The floor is in. This wall is done. The ceiling is in. This wall over here, as you can see, not so much. So that's the plan for this episode of the Arctic van build. Over here, there's gonna be all the electrical stuff, so I don't fancy having carpet, which means we're gonna clad the entire thing with plywood. But first, we're gonna build a little frame that will sit in this bump out that will give us a couple more inches. And you might say size doesn't matter, but in this tiny van, it sure does. But that's enough talking, so let's get to work. So I got those two spacers glued up. Now before we can do anything else on this wall, we gotta route some conduit. The main electrical system is gonna be in the left front corner, down in there, and then the switch panel is over here. It's kind of all over the place. 12-volt system is all gonna be there, and then here's gonna be the two 30-volt outlets. So I gotta run a conduit from the inverter all the way beneath the floor, down in the wall, and then up here. So let's drill that hole and then run some conduit. What? Oh, well, weather sure looks like fall is finally here. It's gonna be raining almost the entire day. And in this cold weather, the trunk struts really don't hold up the weight anymore of the trunk. So that's a bummer. But thanks to a viewer, I think I just found a replacement product that's much more powerful, that should be able to support the weight. So today's goal is gonna be to get pretty much all the rough framing done and glued in for this wall. So tomorrow when it's Sunday and I can't make too much noise, I'm just gonna insulate everything. Now the two brackets we made yesterday are gonna sit right over here, and then there's gonna be two battens going over those brackets and they need to be bent. So let's make them out of some leftover plywood. Got the measurements for the bend, but first there's someone else who needs our little help. Come on, poor guy. I look like an idiot walking around with this camera. So that's gonna take about 1 or 2 hours to glue up. Now in the meantime, these brackets need to be a bit angled on the edges so they will fit in here, as we don't want to lose too much space. So I'm gonna prep those and then also make some little pieces that go on the bottom along here. And then to reference the tricky one along the doorway, we gotta install the brackets with the pieces we just glued up so that we can match this angle to the one up front so that the plywood sits kind of flat in here. Not sure if that made sense, but I guess you're gonna get what I mean. Oh, that's a cool effect. There's always so much sawdust on the lens, but I don't have a proper cleaning towel and I want to scratch up the lens. Got to get the hazy, foggy look, but that fits with today's weather. I just checked the weather forecast and apparently rain is gonna stop in like 15 minutes. But I hope I could explain what I'm gonna do. If not, I bet you're gonna get it pretty soon. So I just spotted my neighbor unboxing a table tennis table. That's gonna come in super handy to make the templates for the wall. But for now, we're back to our glue up. It should kind of be dry by now. It is super cold and humid outside, so it's still probably sticky to touch, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have much time, so I guess I'm gonna unclamp it. I think I got the measurements that I need, but that was a pain figuring it out. There's so many angles once again. I'm not positive it will fit until we dry fit it. Now that was quite a complicated glue up. I also added some spacer blocks just to add a little bit more strength, because this part was only glued in before and now there's 4 screws. And now we gotta figure out where all of the stuff goes on the wall so we can mark up the holes, drill them and put the rivet nuts in. Turned out that I didn't get the angles quite right, so I need to add 6 millimeters and 9 millimeters over here. And then this frame that started pretty simple but got pretty complicated should pretty much fit like a glove. And we've got all the bolt locations marked up, so that's gonna be a riveting job. Not even Swiss cheese has this many holes, just look at it. So this frame should have dried long enough. Now I just finished up sanding all the edges and marking where I need to put glue. And this glue up is actually perfect to use up all this leftover glue I have laying around, so I can get rid of some tubes. Well, good morning. It's only like 4 degrees, so the dampers aren't doing anything. But good news, I picked up the second pair, so we're gonna try those. Now the original ones are 720 newtons, and I did some rough calculations and I figured that I need 1000 newtons. So I think I found the perfect pair, thanks to Stevie who commented, I think 2 episodes ago. Now the only thing is they have a little bit of a different joint, so I gotta replace the bolts as well. So the pins are in and painted. Now the sun is out and it's super pretty, and I gotta find some sort of loop to put on the little hinges. Definitely not calling them balls again. And I think somewhere I should still have some silicone loop from the brake repair. So let's find that. Also, it's a little bit sketchy. I made sure to have 3 posts on that support the trunk, but basically it's kind of like a guillotine when I'm sticking my head in there. So yeah, I do not recommend doing that. Probably better to have some helping hands. All right, now let's see what's in here. And there we go. The trunk already stays open, so that's a good sign, but let's see if we can close it. Now they're plenty strong. I think I could have done with the 900 newtons instead of the 1000, because it's quite hard actually to push them down. But since these are 8mm bolts, I don't think there's going to be any problem with too much force on them. So with that, I think the trunk is finally done and we can get back to framing the side. Now all those little pieces we just glued in are drying up. So now what I want to do on this side is the same as we did over here with this front frame where the final piece of plywood is gonna sit. So this is already the beginning. Then it has to go around the wheelhouse cover to the front, up along the ceiling, and then line up with this piece again. So that's gonna be lots of cutting and measuring again. But first we gotta find out where the piece of wood is gonna be, so that the 2 walls are perfectly parallel. Otherwise the build out is gonna be a complete nightmare. Got all the measurements, so let's get some of the lumber and get to cutting. I almost spent an entire day cutting some more pieces and finishing them up. And I also made this angled one for the entryway, which has a little half-lap joint that I'm kind of proud of. It's not perfect, but it'll sure do the job. So let's get them glued in down here, up to the ceiling, and then all the way back. And then today there's going to be lots of small little tasks that will prepare us for the next steps of the build. All right, let's get to it. Now that was a bit messy, and I guess another lesson that I should maybe take my time to dry fit this stuff. I thought I measured correctly, but apparently I didn't. But for now, I went shopping and got some bolts and washers, because right now we're gonna do a little bit of electrical stuff. Now, please don't quote me on this and do your own electrical research, But basically I'm gonna have two systems, a 12 volt and a 230 volt. 12 volt is most of the cabling you already see, and they will have a plus and negative pole, and the negative will run straight back to the battery. But for a 230 volt, which will have the inverter over there and then some outlets over here, I need a point where they can all come together to kind of share their potential. So that's what I'm going to do over there. And for that I bought some huge 8mm bolts, some washers and some locking nuts. So now let's find an accessible spot in the car body, sand it down to bare metal, and then get the bolt in, and then we're gonna have a solid connection for all the wires to come together. Now with that done and drying up, I think it's finally time to continue with this wall, which means doubling it up and extending all this frame shelving stuff. I gotta take some measurements, and this time I promise I'm gonna dry fit it. So then all of those pieces can dry up whilst I'm doing the installation, and then that should give me quite a productive day. So that is in and looking good, and it all lines up pretty well. Now what doesn't line up so well is this piece, which is sticking out way too much. So I gotta fix that, and then we can do the insulation. We're not gonna do the entire insulation because I still gotta do some work. I just ordered an exterior outlet, which is gonna go over here, and that's gonna be the next episode. So the plastic piece I glued in is kind of working against me, but nothing a whole saw can't fix. Now, never mind about the insulation. It looks like there's a huge thunderstorm coming in, so I better hurry packing everything up. As always, thanks a ton for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.